Okay, good afternoon, guys. Very happy New Year and welcome back to my channel. We've started 2021 on a good note as far as our channel is concerned. We are 770 subscribers now, and hopefully, we'll have the vaccine for COVID soon. The vaccine drive is starting from next week in all the medical institutes and colleges. Hopefully, we are going to get some respite from this COVID problem. Although, being medical students, we all know, being doctors, we all know that this strain of virus has this potency to mutate. And that is the reason influenza vaccine is something that you need to get yearly when it is non-COVID flu viruses also. However, for the general public, yes, it is a beacon of hope, uh, and hopefully the new strain that has originated in Europe. We have had 5 cases in India, but they are not that infective as they are in Europe, and they are not very fatal, thankfully. So hoping that 2021 would be slowly would herald a recovery phase, and although 2020 taught us a lot, and it taught us to respect nature to and it taught us the importance of science, the importance of having good medical care, and of course the fact that no matter wherever we are in the world, we can communicate and impart knowledge and discuss through the virtual world. So that taught us the good aspects of the internet and the virtual mode of teaching. Keeping that this thing continuing this trend of this virtual mode of teaching, let me start with this new year with this very what shall I say, awaited topic, if I may say. This was something that I had promised you last year in 2020 when I had started this thing with hemolytic anemias, and I had promised you that I'm going to come up with an entire lecture separately on hemoglobinopathies, and that is exactly not only hemoglobinopathies but the HPLC interpretation of the same, because I have been discussing hemolytic anemias. So let us begin with that today. I am going to take up HPLC now, as I had promised you last time also. So since there are a lot of slides, I'll be moving quickly through each one of these slides so that I can jump to the cases that are there. So what is the principle? I will go slow over here. What is the principle of HPLC? The principle of HPLC is that there are two modes or two phases. There are two kinds of substances or materials through which your blood will move, and each substance or material has a particular level of attractivity. matlab the RBCs, the hemoglobin in the blood, in the hemolyzed sample that this HPLC machine is getting, has affinity. Different hemoglobins have different level of affinity to this substance that is there in the HPLC column, and as per its degree of affinity, the hemoglobin is going to stick at different levels. So before I read it out, I just want to give you a layman's interpretation that if this is an HPLC column, and if this is filled with this green substance, I'm sorry, I'm not able to color this completely, and if this yellow is the hemoglobin which is passing through this, then at each level, I'm just changing color so that you can see a different hemoglobin component will stick at a different point in this column, and this is what we interpret in the HPLC chart. So if putting it into words, the principle of separation in normal phase mode and reverse phase mode is adsorption. There are two modes, there are two phases, a normal phase HPLC and a reverse phase HPLC. And in both these phases, the principle, these molecules which are getting separated on the substance, the principle is adsorption, not absorption. We have studied in class 12th, adsorption means sticking to the surface, while absorption means going inside the substance. Okay, so this is adsorption, and this is what happens in HPLC. When a mixture of components are introduced in an HPLC column, they travel according to their relative affinities towards the stationary phase. This green thing is the stationary phase. And through this moving phase, this hemolyzed blood sample is traveling and hemoglobin is getting attached. Whatever hemoglobin this sample has will stick as per its affinity at a definite location. The component which has more affinity towards the adsorbent is traveling slower. The component which has less affinity towards this green phase, it travels faster, and hence it will adsorb in the end, and the one which has more affinity will adsorb earlier. Since no two components have the same affinity, hence we can separate the hemoglobins present. So this is a diagrammatic representation of what I just told you. This is the HPLC solvent, which is pumped through a pump into the injector. This is the HPLC column, and the solution is filled over here. The phase is filled over here. You put your sample into the injector. The HPLC solvent goes inside it, and both of these move through this column, and whatever separation takes place is detected by this electronic detector, which then converts it into analog signals on the computer as graphs, and the waste diluent which contains HPLC solvent and waste sample goes in a waste basket or a waste container. Reasons where we have hemoglobin detection and quantification: newborn screening, prenatal screening, follow-up newborns, follow-up screening of newborns, and anemias, unexplained HbA1c. This is actually for adults. And then hemoglobinopathies, wherever there's a refractory anemia which is not being explained, or there's something like diabetes, or you have a history of hemolytic anemias in the family. Advantages: it is very sensitive at low concentrations with improved precision and better separation. Of course, high skills, and of course tell you what co-elution of hemoglobin is. Sorry for this kind of what co-elution of hemoglobin is. I'll tell you that it requires high skills, and what it requires is some money. It is a little expensive. Now this particular graph is very important. You need to remember this if we need to study HPLC. In alkaline medium, this HPLC column works on either acidic or alkaline medium, whichever medium solvent we are using. In alkaline medium, when we are doing HPLC, A2CEO, they co-elute at one position. This is what I was talking about when I was telling you about the disadvantage of co-elution. And for this, to cover up this, to get rid of this, we now have sensitive techniques like immunofixations. This is one step ahead of a simple HPLC, and two steps ahead of simple hemoglobin electrophoresis, which you used to do. So HPLC is two steps ahead. I'm sorry, not immunofixation. Of course, is a more sensitive technique, and even in HPLC we do get this overlap of hemoglobins. But this chart over here that I'm showing is for hemoglobin electrophoresis. Pardon me, I just made a mistake over here. And that is why we need HPLC. And then this problem, when it occurs at a particular point in a few hemoglobinopathies in HPLC graphs, that is why we need immunofixation. Okay, so it goes something like electrophoresis has problems, come to HPLC, has problems, go to immunofixation. All right, but by and large HPLC is very sensitive. So what are the problems in electrophoresis? A2CEO elute at the same position, SDG elute at the same position, from anode to cathode. In an acidic medium, A2DEG, they elute at the same position. SOC and F are different again from the anode to the cathode. Of course, we all know that A is alpha 2 beta 2, which is greater than 95% adult. A2 is alpha 2 delta 2, which is 2 to 3%. F is alpha 2 gamma 2, which is less than 2% in a normal adult. Okay, common hemoglobin point mutations in alpha chain, G Philadelphia, there's alpha 68, ASN2 lysine, beta chain, SCED, each has glutathione to valine or to lysine at different beta positions. Delta chain A2 dash, lysine to arginine. This is more for your competitions rather than for your practical application. Okay, important points in reading an HPLC is to see what is the retention time in the graph, then the percentage of the variant, percentage of the A2, number of peaks to tell you number of variants, history and clinical course, of course. The Biorad machine that is used has these windows with fixed retention times. There's an F window where hemoglobin F elutes. Retention time is how long can this hemoglobin get retained on the stationary media. Okay, so 0.9. These are fixed retention times. You will get it with the machine. I have not made them, and you need to remember them. And the windows are more or less named after the type of hemoglobin that will elute at that retention time, except some unknown windows like P2 and P3. Okay, again, interpretation in short, I would like to give you a that if there are percent 25 to 50% abnormal peak, the percentage of A is 50 to 60, A2 is this much, then it has to be beta chain. The problem is in beta chain. Similarly, for alpha chain, the percentage of A is to 70 to 80 and A2 is reduced 1.5 to 2.2. Then if there are two beta chains, then what will happen? The A will go totally zero and A2 will increase. And if there's one alpha, one alpha, beta, I'll show you all this on a graph that it's easier to interpret. So coming to the first case that we are going to go. So here what you see is a normal graph. Okay, the F concentration is 1.2, the A2 concentration is 3.1, which is within the normal limit. Here you can see that P2, P3, these windows are normal, and F is in the normal range. So here you see a small A2 peak. There is nothing over here. So this is a normal. Now compare it with this case. F is 14.9%. Over here you can see there's no P2, P3, and A2 is 2.2%. Now the thing over here is, and you can see this large peak which was not over here. So the thing over here is that what I mean by just looking at this, I can easily tell you that there's some problem. So what is this case? This case, very clear cut, any and everyone can say, is HbF disease, or when there's excess, excess of hemoglobin F in the blood of the adult, and this can be due to various causes. There's persistent hemoglobin F, HbHF disease. Beta thalassemia also has an increase in HbF levels, but then the A2 concentration also increases. This is more or less borderline. So you can get an idea that this could be beta thal or HbF disease, and you can guide the clinician. Coming to case 2, then if you see the this is again the normal graph. The F is 1.2, A2 is 3.1, and over here you see that the F has reduced to 0.1 and A2 has increased. A2, the value has slightly increased to 2.3, and then there's this unknown kind of peak, unknown peak, you can see, and this peak can be of, when you get a peak at the A or A2 level, this can be of either the sample is old, or there is some sort of hindrance, protein hindrance to the hemoglobin interpretation. In diabetic patients, you get this kind of a graph where suddenly there's an increase in the A2 concentration, there's an unknown peak, and the F has reduced too much. So either there is, the sample is old, there's something wrong, ask for another sample, and they always give you a normal graph, and then you compare, you see you're getting a peak over here. You see this is not, there's no peak over here, and the concentration of F is reduced, and you'll get this flag of unknown over here. So this is actually either an old sample or a diabetic. Then case 3, again you have a normal sample. Here you see A2 is 1.6, F is 0.4, and then you have an S window over here. So probably this is sickling, and of course you have unknown, some unknown component is there in this, maybe an A2 dash, but A2 dash is an abnormal variant of adult hemoglobin, and an S window if present. Now you remember that thing I told you, where the hemoglobins elute, SE, A2 dash, these elute together. So if you're getting a peak in S, doesn't mean it is always sickle cell. Any one of these multiple numbers that I told you, SEE2, then SDG, A2CEO, any of these can give you the peak at the same position, and that is why you need immunofixation. So what this will just give you is an idea. You see the concentration, you know this is not beta thal, this cannot be beta thal. A2 is less, F is less. So now you get an unknown window and an S window. So maybe it is not S and one of the other ones which is eluting in the S. So you can get an idea. Yeah, I've told you, so hemoglobin A2, it is increased up in beta thal up to 4 to 7.0%. In these variants 3 to 3.52. Even in HBE, you can get a peak at A2. And this is the cause of its decrease. Okay, when there's deficiency of A2 itself and when there's iron deficiency and aplastic anemia. Okay, so I have divided this lecture into two so that the time is not too much. So this is the last case of this lecture, and the rest of the cases I'll take next week. So here you see the biggest thing over here is you don't even need to see that is A2 is 31%. Just remove this so that you can see better and use a so you can see this is 31% A2. Like this is too much. I don't even need to go to F. This is a normal graph, and you are seeing so many unknown peaks and A2 31 no S. So what is that which can co-elute with A2 and not give an S window? That is hemoglobin E. Hemoglobin E is not a commonly diagnosed hemoglobinopathy. It is diagnosed by chance, and the person might live forever without knowing that he has any hemoglobinopathy until and unless he gets married to someone with another hemoglobinopathy and the child suffers from moderate anemia, because E is an incidental OPD finding and there may be just mild anemia and a normal lifestyle. So here there's no S window. Of course, there are unknown peaks, and A2 is too much, like 31%. So then instead, because you can ask me because कि वहाँ पे भी A2 बढ़ा था last graph में, यहाँ पे भी A2 बढ़ा है, but that was not 31%, and there was an S peak, so A2 dash was a differential there. There's no S peak over here. A2 is increased and just A2 increased, nothing else, and an unknown peak. So E A2 में ल्यूट करता है. And it is symptomatology uski kuch nahi hoti hai. This is hemoglobin E, and as I said, I've already made it a 17 minutes long lecture, so I'll see you next time with the remaining cases of HPLC, and I'll tell you a few more tricks how, I mean, you don't need to go in depth, just see the percentage, just see the peak, and you can get an idea of what the hemoglobinopathy is. Of course, molecular, where alpha thalassemia is concerned, even beta, and immunofixation studies and clinical history is very important in reaching up to a conclusive diagnosis. So thank you so much for your patient hearing. I hope this helps you, and I'll see you next time with the last part of the HPLC lecture. Thank you.